This week we have a week of structure trading with a full-on grind taking place in Impasse and Delve. Fountain Sob warfare intensifies. Vindictive is the next legacy alliance with Sob under attack. And I have an update for you on the Spawn Together Able Gamers streaming charity event. Hello pod people, I am Frost and this is your weekly EVE Online war update. Welcome back. So as I mentioned in the introduction, this week has very much been about grinding, particularly in Impasse and Delve, but other stuff has been going on in other regions as well, as always. So I'm going to jump up into my box. We've got Dotland in front of us. For those of you that are not familiar with my war updates, I'm going to show you the regions that we're kind of covering that are relevant to this war. I've got my pen ready. We're going to start up in Fountain and we're going to go all the way across the south here. We're going to forget about Omist because nothing ever happens in Omist. We're going to include those ones for a change. There we go. Right, so these are the areas we're going to cover and we're going to go from east to west and try and get you up to speed on last week's events. So turn my pen off for a sec. We're going to start off with Deterid. Now, the reason why I want to bring up Deterid is if I bring my pen back again and remove that. These areas here belong to Vindictive, and I said last week that Razor took them. And it was pointed out to me that these were not taken. Vindictive actually handed them over to Razor. So just a small difference in the way that I said it, but obviously for clarification, this was not a hostile takeover. It was a friendly handing over of systems by Vindictive to Razor. Now, as we're on the subject of Vindictive, we are going to go now to Tenerifis because things are definitely happening in Tenerifis for Vindictive. As you can see from all of the orange glows in this southern region around here, quite a lot of the Vindictive systems are being reinforced. Now, as you know, we used to have Eternal Requiem and Requiem Eternal, I can never remember which way around it is, up in the northwest, and they've been completely removed from Tenerifis. And it now looks like Vindictive are next. And so I'll be keeping an eye on this on the next week to see what happens. But as you'll see later on in the show, Vindictive are making plans and things are happening with their alliance in terms of movements, etc. So that's pretty much Tenerifis for now. Then from there, we're going to move over to Immensia. So Immensia, the map is now essentially completely cleared of Legacy. Legacy are no longer there except for Vindictive. And as you can see at the moment, all of their stuff is looking okay, but that isn't going to last. And the reason why I mentioned this is there was a fed up Satio in E1F, so in this little region up here, that died to Dreadpomb super capital fleet, carriers and battleships. And then there was a Vindictive Fortizar that died in ROB7 right there. And this one died to Tickle, or Tactical Supremacy, and Simple Farmers in super capitals again. And then there was a Tengu joint fleet of Purple Helmeted Warriors, Strayer Post, Simple Farmers and Tickle, which shows that all of those third parties are working together. That looked like a joint fleet of Tengus. Now, if you take into account the super capitals that are involved as well, Vindi are not in a position to defend themselves. So I think it is just now a question of time before the third parties, so whether it's Wrecking Crew, Dreadbomb, or a lot of the Russian alliances that are starting to move into catch and settle in there, actually come in and decide to remove Vindi from Immensia altogether, and then at which point it will be completely clear of all Legacy Coalition. So that brings us up to date on Immensia, and now we're going to move down into Impasse. So Impasse has been a week of structure bashing, but before we get to that, Requiem Eternal, if you remember, got completely removed out of Tenerifis, and they are now being removed out of this area here. And I think that's just only a matter of time now, so they're pretty much out on their own here. As you can see, all of their systems have been reinforced. One to note, by the way, is Sorry in Advance. So Sorry in Advance, I've covered before. They are a Canadian alliance that was only created literally a couple of months ago, at the beginning of January. And they started off their alliance history by setting up shop in Querious in the middle of some major Sov warfare. And they eventually got pushed out by Brave and the PAPI allies. But it looks like they're moving over to Impasse. So I think they've got their eyes on this this Requiem Eternal space and probably looking to move in there. So we will see how they do with that. They've obviously had some experience with sub warfare now with what happened in Querious. And obviously the third parties, and especially Red, are very keen on Impasse, so they may get involved on that as well. And it'll be interesting to see if Red Alliance are happy with them being there. Having said that, Wrong already have kind of settled in, and it looks like they're being left to stay there by Red Alliance. So it looks like Red just simply want to see Legacy gone from Impasse rather than just wanting all the territory to themselves. And then finally, down the bottom here, there's an alliance called Midas 22, which has taken over some old Requiem Eternal space, and I have no idea who they are. So if you are Midas 22, this is the first time I've ever seen them hold SOV. This is the only SOV they're currently holding. So as I said, if you're Midas 22, please get in touch with me. My Discord is in the description. I would love to know about you. There's always new alliances popping out all over the place. So in terms of Impasse though, the thing that's really been happening is structure grinding. And in it, definitely get the badge of the week for structure grinders of the week, because the amount of stuff that has died in Impasse is just insane. So we have, let's see, 2 Eternal Requiem Satios. One was actually killed by Init alongside dock workers and no forks given, so third parties still working within it on structure bashing. But then there was a Satio in MTAC 9V5D. I don't even know what that is. It's somewhere in Impasse. It doesn't really matter because there's not much being left here now. But that was involved Goonswarm, so Goonswarm kind of joined in it for that one. So that was just worthy of note. But then, let me get this right, 9 Eternal Requiem Fortizars, 2 Eternal Requiem Prometheus Fortizars, those are the faction ones, 1 Eternal Requiem Marginis Fortizar, and 1 Eternal Requiem Horizon Fortizar. So that's what, 5 faction Fortizars, 9 standard Fortizars. There was also 3 Eternal Requiem Asbels. All of these were killed primarily by Init. So that is a huge number. And by the way, as I've been talking about that Horizon Fortizar, something of note with this, so the Horizon Fortizars, if you didn't know, these are kind of limited edition Fortizars that were NPC stations, stations that were owned by alliances in nullsec that were turned into Upwell structures. Now the Horizons are the rarest of them all. There's only 114 to begin with, and this is the 14th one to die, so there's now only 100 left. And they will never ever come back again, so they're getting rarer and rarer as we go along. But what is interesting is if you can see up here, let me get rid of that, it's showing up as 3 billion. That is completely wrong. That is, as you can see, the values have been going up over time, and it just looks like Zkill had a moment there. Whoops, let me turn off my pen. Zkill had a moment there because the actual Fortizar is only shown as being worth 0.01 ISK, when that is not actually correct. And the last kill was actually 57 billion ISK. So yeah, just so you're aware of that. But anyway, on top of that, let me go back to my map quickly. We also had 7 Brave Fortizars and 1 Test Fortizar. So that's a total of 26 large or extra large legacy structures destroyed in Impasse. So as I said, a lot of structure bashing going on there. So I think we can say that Legacy are being definitely removed from Impasse in a big, big way. So that gets us up to date with Impasse. Now what I want to do is I'm going to jump away quickly and talk about Able Gamers. So Able Gamers, I mentioned it last week, they did some streamers, mostly EVE streamers, did an event based around supporting Able Gamers. It was called Spawn Together, there we go. And over the weekend, they've done an amazing job. And these streamers included Rain, Sutona, Dradian, Manic Velocity, Urschlag, Liara Plays, CCP Convict, Scottish Deck, and Ron USMC. And I'm going to bring up the webpage now, and you will see this is live right now. They're at $9,570 raised, which is incredible. Whoops, my pen has gone really thick for some reason. Let me change that. There we go. And they want to reach their goal of 10,000. So I'm going to put the link in the description for this webpage where you can donate and you can help out, and hopefully they can then finish off their stream having reached a goal of $10,000, which would be incredible. I'll put it in pinned comments as well, so you can find it really, really easily. But that is an impressive feat over one weekend. So well done to everybody that was involved in the Spawn Together event. Right, back to our regular programming. And next up, we have Fethobolis. Okay, so Fethobolis. Let's get there, Fethobolis. Here we go. So Fethobolis, the big change that has been happening is already replaced, have been losing lots and lots of sov. So you can see all of this, oops, let me try and do that again. All of this here was already replaced and it has been removed. And so they are being pushed out very, very hard now. Originally, it was just a few structures being hit by deep water hooligans and a couple of other third parties. I think Of Sound Mind is the other one that springs to mind. But they're kind of being really, really pushed out now. But once again, already replaced, also making plans, as we'll see a little bit later on. But one of the things to note here, let me just double check. So yeah, we lost, so AARP, that's already replaced, lost a Marginis Fortizar, which died to Init. Once again, like I said, Init is super busy with their structure grinding. But then Of Sound Mind, which I mentioned just a minute ago, they killed a test Fortizar in BJD4-E. So that shows that, once again, third parties are getting very involved in kind of taking out not only sov, but also destroying structures as well. Now, if you remember, I said deep water hooligans were based out of here and were projecting into Fethobolis. They actually tried to anchor a Fortizar over here in TR07 to be able to project in other parts of Fethobolis, but that was actually killed during anchoring by, I believe, by test. So they're still not getting an completely easy run, but one of the things I have to say though is they're not getting much of a fight back. And the perfect example of this, if I can find it, is, let me see just very quickly. Okay, I can't remember where it is now, but it can just be described in 2UK4. Let me just look it up. I'm so astounded by this that it's caught me by surprise. I'm actually almost speechless, which is unusual for me. There we go. So in the system here, so this one right here, there was a test, a ARP structure, and it died to a dreadnought, a sole dreadnought belonging to deep water hooligans, who all on his own sieged, it was an Asbel, that's right, sieged and killed an Asbel uncontested in just a solo dread. So this shows that the people that are still based in Fethobolis are not really in a position to contest anything if a solo dread can just YOLO in and kill an Asbel. So there we go. So I just want to bring that to your attention. Finally, there's this group here called Invidia Gloria Comes, and I know nothing about them, and they're not being touched, and I don't believe they're associated to Legacy. So just like Midas 22, this is a group I don't really know much about. So once again, if you're part of that group and you're watching, please come join my Discord. Please come and talk to me so I can get a little bit more insight as to why you're in Fethobolis and your relationship with all the other groups that are involved in this particular area. So that kind of brings us up to speed with Fethobolis. So we're kind of storming through this today. We're doing good. So let's now move on to Catch. So in Catch, as you can see, all that's left now of Legacy and Catch is literally just two systems. We've got this one over, oh, my pen's gone really thick again. I'm clearly hitting a hotkey there that's upsetting it. There we go, V2-VC2 and JTAC-ODE7 are the only two Legacy systems left. And this is now becoming, obviously the North being held by kind of Wrecking Crew, and then the Russian alliances are kind of coming in here. And what is the really big surprise for me is this. So those of you, some of you may not be familiar with AAA, which is Against All Authorities. Now, Against All Authorities, the last time I believe we saw them was at the beginning of 2017. And that was the time when Test invaded Catch. And there was a group, a coalition called Stainwagon. Against All Authorities were a big part of that. And they're now back. So what is common with Stainwagon is that if they ever get beaten in the south, they withdraw back into Stain and build themselves back up. And then when the opportunity comes, they come back into Catch. And now we're seeing basically history repeat itself. So I don't know whether this means we'll see a return of Steinwagen. I don't think so, because the two main leaders of Steinwagen, I think that was Raven 7022 and Union, I do not believe play EVE anymore. So they were kind of the two main leaders of Steinwagen. But we are seeing some of those Russian alliances kind of coming back and being involved. And so yeah, something to look out for. And welcome back Against All Authorities. Welcome back to Salt anyway. Then in Catch, what else do we have? Obviously, the big thing in here as well was that my pen is fighting me today. Okay, the GE TAC 8JV is the Keepstar system for Brave. It was originally their capital system. I said last week it was their capital system, and it's actually been moved. The capital system for Brave is now in Querious. But this Keepstar is there, and it's on the Doom Clock, and Against All Authorities are holding the iHub, and so they are the ones running the Doom Clock. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I think that will die uncontested, and I would imagine that Brave are just moving as much stuff out as they can, as they have 100% definitely now moved to Querious, as we'll see later. So that's it for Catch. So we're moving at a good rate today, because I try not to waffle on too much. And we're going to go over to Esoteria. So Esoteria, what's happening here is, if you remember last week, we saw Evictus move into Fethobolis, move into Esoteria. And if I jump to Fethobolis quickly, you'll see down in the south here, there we go, down in the south, that IOU are going to, or Evictus, are pretty much going to be left on their own here, and they're clearly making plans to move out of Fethobolis and move into Immensia. And in fact, one of the things that I will be looking at is the ADMs. So the ADMs are still pretty high, which means there's still some activity here, and we can see we've got a capital system as well with an ADM of 6 in the south. But if you move to Esoteria, you will see that these systems, that the ADM is starting to be pushed up as well. So it does look like there is a concerted move by Evictus to go to Esoteria. So we will go back now to our iHubs. And the main thing is that what we're seeing is there's actually soft warfare going on between AOM and Bastion. So they're going head to head. And the area in which they're kind of fighting is kind of this one here, and you can see they're trying to ref each other's iHubs, they're trying to flip their iHubs, and there is a basically to and fro going on between Army of Mangoes, which is a Chinese alliance, and Bastion, which is primarily Russian. And I did mention there's kind of a little bit of crossover on the time zones, but they are still trying to take each other on sub. And we'll also have to see how that plays out, whether Bastion can hold and push back, or whether they're going to have to retreat back onto the western side of Esoteria. So that's pretty much it for Esoteria. So Army of Mangoes and Bastion are kind of running everything there at the moment in terms of the fights that are going on. Now, I want to mention quickly two regions that I don't normally mention. First one is Paragon Sol. The reason I want to mention Paragon Sol is in the last week, Vindictive have started taking systems in Paragon Sol. So this is very much a clear intent that Vindictive do not want to be left out on their own in Impasse and obviously Tenerifis, and are making a move and have now set up shop here, and I would imagine they will then maybe start taking a few more systems and getting themselves integrated into Paragon Sol. Then on period basis, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, Warped Intentions only had this one system, and I said they would probably push out and take a few more. And that is indeed the case. That is what has happened. And Warped Intentions are getting themselves settled into period basis. And I would imagine it won't be long before that very last system in Catch will be gone, and then Warped Intentions will be fully based here in period basis. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move up to Querious. So first thing I need to do is I need to make an apology to Brave. I made a statement last week, and on reviewing it, it did sound very condescending, and it wasn't my intent. And so therefore I apologize for that. What I said was that I was concerned that Brave were taking too many systems and would not be able to hold them. This concern was actually completely wrong. I did not have to worry. And in fact, Brave have taken even more systems in Querious and are getting themselves very much settled here. So Brave are very much on top of things. As you can see, none of their iHubs are reinforced. And as I said, they've taken up more systems. All of these up in the top right here were not taken before, and so they've kind of expanded into those areas. Now, the main things with Querious that happened, apart from obviously Brave taking more stuff, is down to Keepstars, and in particular Goonswarm Keepstars. Now, the main one that we're going to be talking about is F20Y. So if you remember last week, I talked about how this allowed access to GOP and over to W6V. Now, this Keepstar has died, but the Imperium did try to contest it. Now, there is a Sinojammer in there, and what happened is the Imperium jumped in supercapitals into a neighboring system and then gated supercapitals in the day before. So they managed to get a good number of supercapitals in and into the Fortizar to fight over the armor timer. The armor timer always being the best one to fight over, because even if you lose, you can still tether up and then move yourself out afterwards. But what happened is that normally what you do then is on the day of the fight, the Sinojammer would be cycled off in order to allow the PAPI forces to jump their forces in. And at that point, you get a small window where the Imperium could have done the same and jumped their forces in. And as they already had a substantial number of super caps in there, they could potentially get in enough caps, super caps, to be able to take on a fight with PAPI. But PAPI did not cycle the Sinojammer. They clearly took note of what the Imperium did the day before, and they actually gated their supers in as well. And so therefore they were able to outnumber the Imperium on the armor timer, and so therefore quite sensibly the Imperium stood down, and then they didn't contest the hull timer, and the F20Y Keepstar died. One of the funny things that did happen though, one of the strange things, there was actually a Ragnarok that was in the Keepstar with a pilot in it when the Keepstar died. So when the Keepstar died, it just ended up popping out from the Keepstar, and it was right underneath the super capital PAPI fleet. So yeah, it died as expected, but always worth mentioning a Titan death, and they do die in the most unusual circumstances. That always makes it interesting. So there you go. So that's our only Titan death this week, but it was a worthy one because it's been different from what we've had recently. And that is pretty much a wrap up. I know we've got some Doomclock's Keepstars, which I haven't mentioned before. I actually completely forgot about them. There's one in BX VEX down here, and there is one in YQX-ZG. Now on both of these, the Doomclock is now set, which means that Sinojammers may or may not be in here. I don't actually know, but they are in a position where PAPI can put Sinojammers in here, and then move on to reinforcing and potentially killing these structures. Also, the GOP Keepstar has its Doomclock now finalized and can be Sinojammed, and that will most likely be a target in the next week, I would imagine. The W6V Keepstar has got about another 6 days to go before its Doomclock flips over. If you don't know what I mean by the Doomclock, what it means is that you have to be able to hold an iHub for 35 days. Once you manage to hold it for 35 days, then you can put a Sinojammer in. So the 35 days is essentially the Doomclock. Once you have the Sinojammer in, then you're in a very strong position because you can control the input, as I mentioned earlier, of super capitals to a fight over a Keepstar. Okay, so Querious done. And now we are going to go on to Fountain. So Fountain was pretty quiet for a good couple of months. And then what happened was Federation Uprising moved into the area. And initially they took these systems here. And then FXR, that's French Connection, had these two systems here. Now, I mentioned last week that those systems were taken from XFR. Somebody actually got in touch with me and told me that whilst French Connection held these systems, they were not based there. I've now learnt that French Connection are actually very, very closely tied within it and generally deploy within it and fly within it. And so they're kind of more of a kind of concerted group between those two alliances. And so therefore they're much more nomadic than I believed earlier, in that they very much work in a similar way to the initiative. But the things obviously to note this week is that Federation Uprising are kind of moving in and taking more systems. And then we also have a whole bunch of systems that have been flipped and refed, which were originally initiative systems as well. So it looks like some of the legacy alliances are now taking interest in Fountain and trying to push in it out. and it may be related to finding new homes for some of the legacy alliances. Obviously got pushed out of Catch and Impasse and Federabolis, etc. And we will have to see over the coming weeks. And that brings us up to date on Fountain. And then we finally come on to Delve. And let's go to Delve. So with Delve, it's all about Keepstars and structure bashing. So one Keepstar died this week in Delve, and that was the one in DTAC W, right there. My pen's gone a little bit thicker this time, not quite as thick. And that's been the only Keepstar, but we have a whole bunch of Doom Clocks now coming around. Before I mention the Doom Clocks though, there was some other structures died as well. We had 5 Goonswarm Satios, 6 Imperium Fortizars, and 2 Goonswarm Asbels. So structure bashing is definitely a thing in Delve as well from the PAPI perspective, and as we saw earlier, the Imperium been structure bashing in Impasse primarily, and just trying to remove each other's structures and reduce industry, etc. Now, coming back to the Keepstars, we now have 8 Keepstars Doom Clocked in Delve. Those are all ready to be sino-jammed and potentially attacked. And then we have 2 Keepstars that are already in their final timer. So 2 Keepstars have been reinforced, and it's these 2 right here, FM-JK5 and PDE-U3. And that is primarily the focus of PAPI at the moment, is to try and remove as many of these Keepstars as we can. And so if you look at the Doom Clock that we now have, thanks to Zed Killy, let's go to zoom, there we go. So you can see from let me clear that, there we go. We can see from the little stopwatches here, these are all the systems where the Doom Clock has now been flipped or clicked over, and we now have the ability to put sino-jammers in there, and therefore now PAPI have the ability to attack these Keepstars. These are the remaining Doom Clocks that are ticking over, and you can see that the last one here is 29 days. So on the basis that the Imperium are not able to flip any of these iHubs, then all the Doom Clocks will be cycled over within a month. So that's kind of the timeline we're looking at for this structure bashing. Now, having said that, it's one thing to obviously get the Doom Clocks done. It's another thing to kill the Keepstars. At the moment, PAPI are destroying Keepstars between 2 and 4 a week. So if we look at all of these that are remaining, we're looking at a minimum of 4 to probably at least 10 weeks for all of this structure bashing to take place. So that is a long grind. That's 2.5 months of grinding. So the big question now is whether PAPI can maintain that momentum and that morale and keep players engaged for what is going to be a very, very dull, grindy period in this war. And the Imperium are well aware of this, and are just sitting tight in their constellation in 1DQ, waiting to see what happens to participation numbers. And obviously, if they see an opportunity, I'm sure they will come out and take a fight on one of these Keepstars. But they are playing the waiting game right now. And then if you're just wondering, these kind of like little mushroom clouds at the bottom here, those are the Keepstars that have been destroyed so far. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So let me just jump back to my map again. There we go. So Delve, in terms of soft warfare, not much happening. A few systems being reinforced here and there. But like I said, Imperium playing the waiting game with regards to just sitting tight and only picking the very few fights that are of interest to them, and just seeing if PAPI will wear themselves down with all the grinding they have to do. And we're just talking now about just Keepstars alone. It's just a lot of grinding. They've got all the Satias, the Asbels, as we saw. There's still a lot of them, and that is a lot of work to be done to be able to make this area kind of really usable by Test Alliance, and for Test to be able to make it their home. All right, so just before I go, I'm going to mention some propaganda again. This time it's sorry in advance. Let me see, where did I put there? There it is, sorry. Sorry in advance, gave me some artwork. I mentioned last week how I love all this artwork and stuff that's more than just a bunch of memes. So thank you very much, sorry in advance, and good luck in Impasse, by the way. And then finally, just something I noticed, if I go back to the universe, just something really bizarre here. An alliance called The Russia had an increase of almost 5,000 members in a week. And if you actually look, they had 5,000 members, then it went down to under 1,000, and then jumped back up almost immediately. So I have no idea what happened there, just really curious and interested. So if anybody has any info on that, contact me on my Discord. Right, that's pretty much it. We are there. So as always, please like, please subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. Please join my Discord if you want to get involved in talking about strategy in the war and where it's going, and contacting me if you feel that there's some information I'm missing out on that I could, make good use of. And obviously mention me in your Alliance Discords and your Co-op Discords. And thank you very much for the support. Our numbers are growing all the time, which is great. And I'm planning on doing some other content as well that is related to EVE. And as soon as I have some news on that, I will let you know. Right, that's all from me. Thank you for watching. Until the next one. Bye.